I grew up always being told like revenge is not the right thing to do. It's not a positive emotion. It's not something that you should have in your life. I've never felt something more satisfying. Growing up, I was always told I was a very smart kid, but I never did any homework, slept through most of my classes, and I never got involved in any drugs or anything, but I hung out with a bad crowd, and I was a runaway. And so I had a fairly unhappy family life, which is now much better, but I joined the military as a way to get out of what was not a very positive situation. We have boot camp at Lackland, and then we spend a 6-week air crew school just to make sure you're not a fucking moron, right? And then once you do that, then that is sort of like a buffer to send you to the language school. 72 weeks of training, 8.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? And like tons of tests and gates, and 1 out of every 3 people that goes to the school like drops out because they can't take it, right? But you come out really good at speaking another language. And then whenever you are able to speak philosophically about the nature of oil and of the nature of resources and conflict and war, and then you're doing a job where you're trying to crack number codes and listening to static all day. When we got to Offutt, we worked in a SCIF, so a sensitive compartment and information facility. And we were in this space, basically in a holding pattern, waiting to do more training. We sat there in this basement for about 6-7 months. There was a fellow that came in and he called a meeting and he said, some officer, and he said, we're building something new. I cannot tell you anything about it, but it's different than this and it's really cool. If you want to be a part of it, raise your hand and I'll get your names, and then you're hooked in whether you like it or not. So I raised my hand without a hesitation, and then we went down to Mississippi for training, and then right from Mississippi, we went straight out to Afghanistan. We were the 4th Expeditionary Reconnaissance Squadron. We worked with SEALs, we worked with Green Berets, things like this. Every single mission that we did with these other teams was us either working directly for them for a capture or kill mission, or it was us reacting to a TIC, so troops in contact, and basically every day I was in Afghanistan after we started to roll up on this was us responding to no shit emergencies, Americans, allies being attacked or killed, but it's just nonstop. Every day you're seeing violence, you're seeing bombs drop, you're tracking down individuals who just slaughtered a group of school children. After time, it does take a toll on you. So these 2 Americans, they leave Kabul, they drive south like 120 miles, and then they get ambushed by a bunch of people. One of the Americans is shot to death right there at the site where the truck is, and then the other one gets kidnapped, right? So now we're in 100% like blitz mode. We're sleeping in the squadron and going on as many missions as we can in the air, trying to use every resource that we have to track down where this person's being kept so we can create a mission to go and take him back, right? A couple days later on, we hear a report that there's been a body found downstream. I'm on the mission that is recovering the corpse, and it's this American. This person was beat to death, thrown in a river, like mutilated, brutalized, right? And his body washed up on a shore, and some of the local villagers call it in, something like this. In this particular case, at least, they have to have 3 identifying features, right? And it's like everyone, like I'm in the plane, everyone in our interior like comm system, like a text messaging system, is going fucking crazy because everyone's been like, we've been hoping like, we're gonna find him, it's gonna be okay, everything's gonna get worked out, right? And there's just this collective moment of just utter despair whenever they go through, and he has 3 tattoos. The first one, I don't remember what the fuck it was. The second one, I don't remember what it was either, right? But we're like, this is clearly our guy. But the people on the ground are reporting this to has to have 3 identifying features. And they said, we need you to roll the body over. There's a tattoo on his back. I need you to describe what it looks like. And the guy on the radio starts to get choked up, and he's like, this is our fucking guy, we're done here. I need you to confirm what this tattoo is. And he reads it up, and it's a tattoo of his like 6-month-old child's feet print, right? Feet prints on the back, on his back, right? And it just it really hits home like a lot of this anger and frustration, right? That collective frustration and like just utter despair and like brokenheartedness very quickly turned into anger and just like hatred and we ended up conducting a series of missions after this. So we were on this blitz of like running missions all the time, and then it just turned into one of the most like vitriolic series of missions where we rolled up so many fucking people. We conducted a lot of missions where anyone who could have even been subsidiary way related to this kidnapping and this killing was rolled up or fucking straight up murdered. We dropped bombs on them, and we did our due diligence to make sure there's no women and children and everything else. That was, of course, that we sucked this every single time. But if we found someone that could have been related to this and they were out in a fucking field, goodbye, you're done. In that moment, doing this, I grew up always being told like revenge is not the right thing to do. It's not a positive emotion. It's not something that you should have in your life. I've never felt something more satisfying than being a part of basically just this series of missions afterward to try to get revenge. That's what it was, right? That story always comes to mind because not only is it one of loss and it's one of total collective like despair, but then of just an anger that I've never ever experienced before. My good friend and I, we were really interested in understanding the ethics of war, especially like after the experiences that we went through. So we had to sort of set the example for our new deployed air crews to try to say like, look, like this is how you try to have measured, like ethical, like do all your due diligence to make sure that we're not hurting the wrong people. Because clearly after our experiences, it became so important that we made sure that the people that we are harming or that we're capturing are the people that deserve it. Immediately after getting out of the service, I went back home for a month, really sort of like had some downtime after that and started to sort of figure out what the next step was. And it was really tough. At one point, I remember my good friend's fiance and I went out hiking. I said to her, I feel like I am a collection of stories with no binding force in between them. It's like there's no connective tissue connecting any of these experiences or memories anymore. There's like nothing here. I don't have an agenda. I don't have anything that I care about because I don't know how to prioritize anything, right? There was a tiki bar I used to go to all the time, and there was one guy who was a reserve naval officer who used to come in, and it's the same thing. Anytime a military veteran walked into this bar and we realized we were military veterans, we clung together like you wouldn't believe, right? Like it was just like that bond was like reforged, and it was like, yeah, like you get me, like you understand my worldview, you understand where I'm coming from. Like, some people try, many people don't. Like this is, where it really is though, right? And finally, after I'd known this guy for like a year, he invited me to come to his American Legion Hall. When I went, everything just melted away. Like these were the nicest people that had been clearly working in this space for years, specifically to help people transition. And they welcomed me like I'd never been welcomed in an organization. I've never been in something where people just like, it's granted that we're gonna be here for anything that you need. Don't worry about this, right? And that made a very huge impact on me because I experienced that maybe in the military, right? Where people are like, no, like we're a team, we're here together. And to finally find that and to have had that rekindled in the post-military sort of life was something that I didn't expect. I didn't think that it was out there, but it was. After I ended up moving to Chicago, I knew I had to get involved with the Legion. And I remember taking advice from them that if I didn't find a Legion that was doing this, then I had to get involved with a Legion and make that the way that we did things. And that being able to forge these strong personal relationships, being able to focus on working to help other individuals transition has also helped my own transition quite a bit into figuring out what my role is and how I can use the skills and the mindset and the things that I do have to support veterans in the community. Being able to tell these stories is incredibly important because there's not a lot of venues where we're able to speak this way and to speak freely and to really get into the heart of what these experiences are. Veterans are as unique as anyone else that would be in the United States. We all have our different views, our different backgrounds. I think that Lionhearted being able to show that and to show that veterans are human beings and Americans first, and then they are all distinguished by the fact that they had a shared experience serving in the military. Hopefully that will allow other veterans to see the reality of who and what our community is. And so when they hear, whether it's my story or some of the other compelling stories that Lionhearted has, they'll be able to connect with that and say, this guy knows what I'm talking about. And if this worked for him or this worked for her, this is what I should maybe be open to thinking about too.